Where are we at on timing?
Can I sit on this?
Yeah, absolutely. Wait a minute. Mark and Mark, right?
Mark, yeah.
I just was... Okay, folks, let's get going. So it's the Mark and Mark show from StorageCraft, and boy, the stories we could tell about Mark number 1 and Mark number 2, but that's not why we're here, and the online audience would be terribly bored with those conversations anyways. We might be able to amuse the in-person audience a little bit, but with that said, gentlemen, before you get started, if you could just make a mental note that there is a significant online audience watching, and so if you receive a question, if you could repeat the question and so on. Okay. If you are watching online, please use the hashtag SMB Nation, and we have Jay Weiss also monitoring the chat feature over here, and he'll be asking questions. So with that said, thank you.
Thank you.
And let's get going.
Sounds good. Everybody can hear me okay? Good, good. I worry about Jay Weiss monitoring that because, you know, first thing, Jay and I are friends. I would think that if Harry hadn't said anything, I would think that he would be heckling me the whole time. So he would have been in trouble.
Yeah, Mark, our first question.
Very good. Well, thanks for coming out, guys. My name is Mark Barrett. I'm the West Region Channel Sales Manager for StorageCraft, and of course, we all know Mark Krall, one of the SMB 150, and personal friends, I'm sure, to many of you out there.
They won't admit it.
No? Well, the good thing is that we decided to kind of lighten things up a little bit here, do a kind of a co-presentation. I'm going to kind of take you in an overview of StorageCraft for maybe some of those that haven't heard this before or heard our story. And then Mark's going to kind of get into the more of the nitty-gritty and talk a little bit about how we can help you develop business and make a lot of money with our solution. So if anybody saw in the overall presentation with the rooms, I had to laugh that we're in the hood. I always wanted to present in the hood. I have a very long title. We decided to shorten that title to Beyond Backup, and basically offering business continuity through backup and disaster recovery to your clients. And so hopefully this will be very entertaining as well as informational to you. So to kick things off, let me ask you, who here knows StorageCraft and is using or has used StorageCraft by raise of hands? Well, I don't need to do my presentation there. Yeah. Maybe I should have asked, who has not heard of StorageCraft in the past or has not used our stuff? Wait a minute, I know. Yeah, whatever. So a few of you haven't. You guys have seen us grow over the years. We've been a long-time partner here at SMB Nation, and you know, we started out with just our backup product and had this, you know, this piece of recovery, but we've added a lot of things to it. So we want to make sure that you're well aware of our complete solution. We've got some great releases that just came out. And I think this will help you understand that we've got the full suite now, the full complement, the full solution that can kind of help you. So for those of you that don't know StorageCraft, we were founded in 1999. We were kind of a driver development company. We decided that we would refound the company with our Snapshot driver as kind of the centerpiece. And we saw that there was just backup products amassed out into the marketplace. You can't shake a stick without hitting another backup product out there. But the one thing that they couldn't do, because backup is the easy part, they couldn't do the recovery. You couldn't have fast, flexible, reliable disaster recovery. And that's where we hang our hat. That's what sets us apart from the backup companies that are out there in the marketplace, is that we allow for and make available to you to do more recovery as a service or provide you with the recovery services that you need for your clientele. Again, backup's the easy part. Data protection is pretty standard. It's the time in which we're going to talk about and being able to do this recovery. And so we've partnered with a lot of OEMs out in the marketplaces. Some of you might be using some of our OEM partners where we're kind of the engine within it, but we have a lot more to the solution than just that, and we want to kind of help you understand that. So we talk a little bit about, guys, about what's a disaster. And this is the doom and gloom, right? We've all heard this. Doom. You know, it's the thing that's been ingrained in us. And what's happened is over the years, not only with us as a reseller type channel or MSP type channel, is really with the customers. They've been ingrained of it, with this by, you know, amongst our own ranks. is you've got to get your data and you got to get it off site. That's what the mentality is out there, because the tornado is going to happen. You know, all these bad things are going to happen. And so they put this backup thing together and they try to get their data off site, but they don't realize where the risks are. The problem is that business continuity is a key and king in any business, keeping your business up and running. And the problem is that anything that disrupts that is going to bring your business to a crippling, cripple it and bring it to its knees. It's going to halt business. And it's not the disasters that are the tornadoes and the major catastrophic type events. It's the dumb little stuff that happens. We all know it in the IT world, right? The oops factor, a RAID control drivers, going haywire, a motherboard that goes bad, a drive that stops spinning. It's the mundane little things that can cripple that business. And so what we talk about is the fact that we need to kind of shift that mindset when we get out there, and we need to get into the testing model. Now, I go out to some of these events that we partake of as a vendor. One of those is the Interface events. I'm not sure if you're familiar with Interface, but they're big, city, Portland, Seattle, Denver. I'll go and talk to 100 end users in a room, and I'll say, "Who's got a DR plan?" What do you think happens? Yeah, that's kind of the scary part. Well, just like Gartner says, 40% of the hands go up, okay? And I say, okay, keep your hands up. Who tests? What happens? They all cower, oh, I don't know anything about this. Except for maybe the one guy who thinks he's pretty smart. And then I ask him the detailed questions. How often do you test? What do you test? Well, come to find out, usually we do some file and folder testing. They may take it down once. Well, I ask, well, how come everybody, that has a DR plan, you're hoping you can be recovered. You don't know because you haven't tested. But why don't we test? Because it's expensive and it's time consuming. You got to stay over the weekends and no one wants to do it. It's all the voodoo. Well, that's where we come in. We have a solution now that we can actually provide for you, and you can actually build into your services model and make a lot of money off of it. In being able to test, being able to resurrect a machine within 5 minutes onto any other machine and actually show Mr. Business Owner, hey, there's your SQL server from 9 o'clock this morning, while his SQL server is still running in the background with no IP conflicts. Pretty awesome? Yeah, we're going to talk a little bit more about that. Again, this is ripe for the picking. This is where the opportunity is. All of your customers out there, even if you have some of that data planning available to them, don't have comprehensive DR plans. And that's where we can kind of solve that problem. So when we talk about what's the value of disaster recovery? Well, the value to you is that you've got something to basically lead with and make a lot of money and be able to not just schlep hardware, so to speak. Okay? You can build upon your services. We provide you those tools, those building blocks to actually build your business. I like to show this picture. We have a partner that lives in Joplin, Missouri. You guys remember what happened to Joplin a couple years ago? Yeah, world's most deadliest tornado went through that. This certain partner standardized on StorageCraft. Okay? He did backups at the local site, backing up to a local machine, right, where all of the problems happen, right, to be able to do this. But he also planned for a catastrophic event. He backed up and replicated off-site to his data center in Joplin. But he was one step smarter. He was building that redundancy, but he built it one step smarter. He knew he lived in Tornado Alley. So he replicated it one more time out of state. Now that thing came through. It leveled everything in the town, including his 2-story data center. He said he couldn't even find an intact machine. There was nothing left. Okay? But within 72 hours, because we are hardware agnostic and hypervisor agnostic, it didn't matter what kind of hardware he could procure or bring into Joplin, Missouri from out of state, whether it was a Dell, an HP, an AMD, an Intel, it didn't matter. He basically resurrected, I think he said somewhere north of 400 machines in a 72-hour time frame. Now the key to this is they were all medical type facilities, doctors' offices and clinics, okay? Where in that type of emergency situation, you've got people that they don't know what their prescriptions are. They need their prescriptions. They need medical help. They don't have those, that medical history. So not only was it saving businesses, but it was also saving lives. And that's kind of a nice feather in our cap, in the fact that he, as a service provider, was the only one pretty much in town that had, hospitals and clinics and doctors' offices running. Those others that weren't using StorageCraft, they were rebuilding machines for 2 or 3 weeks. Okay, so that's kind of our story, is that we focus on that disaster recovery, and this is kind of what sets us apart. Again, the backup's the easy part. This is where all of our competitors end. They do backups. They say they can do recoveries, but you go try it out. You've probably experienced this before in the past. We take it a step further. We allow you to manage that, manage those image chains of the entire machines. Okay, be able to drill down and have recovery point objectives of down to even 15 minutes. Okay, and recovery time objectives in your recovery, which we're going to talk about. Being able to manage that data, putting it places, managing it, watching it, okay, with all the tools. Mark's going to show you a little bit more. Here's the valuable piece. We can test it. Literally with our Virtual Boot product, you can virtual boot it even on a spare laptop, if you will, and have machines running in less than 5 minutes and be able to test. That's the key, right? If not, you're just hoping you can be recovered, okay? And then recovery. It's fast, it's flexible, it's reliable. It ultimately makes your business and your customer's business portable. You are not pigeonholed with one type of backup and DR. We make it flexible enough with multiple options that you can recover it to multiple bare metal or virtual. Again, hardware and hypervisor agnostic. I can take it from physical to virtual. I can go between virtual environments, VMware to Hyper-V to Xen. I can take it back to physical on completely different hardware platform. Okay? It doesn't matter. I can get you recovered. Okay? Fast, flexible, reliable. All right? You're not pigeonholed into one type of where you've got to call someone and have them help you through a recovery, or an agent that does one type of recovery. Okay? You don't know what kind of problems. Again, recovery. You've heard me talk about this. So we talk about where are you. Again, in the past, it's all been this: get my data, get off site. It's file and folder. It's the old tape stuff. Okay, and even some of the new products that are out there, the Mozy backups and the Carbonites. It's file and folder. It's reactive. You're going to spend days getting machines, recovered. We talk about image-based. We all know what image-based is, right? We're taking snapshots. We're mapping the sectors. We're actually down to the sector level of StorageCraft. Okay, not block level, sector level. Okay, and we're watching just the sector changes. This makes it proactive because I can manage it. I've got the full machine. I can mount images, do file and folder recovery as well, and also do complete machine recovery. Here's the key piece. We make it predictable. It's tested. It's proven. You've been over to Dr. Smith's office and you've done testing on him. When Dr. Smith calls you and says, my machine just crashed out because you name the scenario, hey, I just have to run my test, bridge it on the network, and I've got Dr. Smith off my back. I can figure out what's happened, do bare metal recovery even during production hours, go home and see my family and do cutovers in 10 minutes. Okay? We make your job easier and make the reoccurring revenue and all the services revenue and et cetera, with the building blocks piece of testing and services like that, a lot more profitable for you guys. So again, we're capturing everything: Windows, operating system, application, update settings, critical data. We're backing up to any disk-based device. You're not, again, you don't have to buy a certain type of equipment to have us run on. We'll back up to, USB to SAN/NAS RAIDs, iSCSI, you name it. Okay? From there, basically, we replicate out as well. So we want to get redundancy built, bring it off-site. We even got our cloud. We're going to talk about our cloud solution as well a little bit. But basically, the key is this. It doesn't matter. I can go back to the same hardware in recovery. I can go to differential hardware, different systems, whatever that might be, for upgrades, migrations, as well as for recovery, as well as virtual environments. So I'm going to turn it over to Mark a little bit here. Mark's going to kind of talk about kind of this recoverability solution piece of our entire solution set.
Thank you. Did you leave me 2 minutes?
I think, yeah, 3.
Sweet. I appreciate you sticking with it. How many of you are managed service providers, MSPs? Cool. Notice I'm standing over here. Rookie move. You walked in front of the projector how many times? Can you see anything? I've learned. How many of you are traditional VARs? You don't actually do service level agreements? Wow, has that changed a little bit over the years here? So you got a few of you. That's fun. How many of you have backup solutions out there that are more than one type of backup software being used? A lot of different backup software. It's great. And the rest of you just getting the exercise here. So when we look at StorageCraft as a recoverability solution, you mentioned it earlier. You said something about it's profitable. And I got to tell you, I take difference with that. I'm sorry. Those of you who have known me over the years, I ran a VAR, converted to MSP. I'm still in a recovery program. I don't own those anymore, but I go through nightly withdrawals thinking about servers down and employee payroll and all that stuff. And so I can relate to where you're at, where you've been from what I've gone through. I had a customer. It was a staffing company in Charlotte, where I'm based out of. This particular staffing company provided the temporary employees for Lowe's Home Improvement, which is also based out of Charlotte. And all those seasonal employees that came throughout the local Lowe's and did the gardening, I think they're all there right now. And I got the call from one of my senior technicians who had gone on site to do a replacement of a RAID card, or actually just some repairs on it, I believe. Anybody here worked on a RAID card on a server? Isn't that fun? So working with a certain company, I can't mention their name, and working with a support technician from that company, they said, go ahead and do this and do that. Well, they did this and that, and then they said, no, wait. Well, fast finger technicians that I had, he had already committed the changes, and as you can imagine, the RAID was gone. The data was gone. That's when I got the call. And what day does that happen on? Friday. All right, you guys have all been there. Servers always go down on Friday, whether it's humans or whatever involved. That's exactly what it was. I got the call on Friday night. By Monday morning, we had realized that at least 3 of the 5 tapes we had were bad. Apparently, you have to slide that little red tab over from unlocked to locked. We were learning. It was a while ago. We were just standardizing on managed services, and this is one of our anchor customers. So we got the tape working finally. We got the server recovered, and we had an inconsistent database, which was great. We recovered the older one, and we finally got back about a week and a half of data later. That, in other words, we lost a week and a half worth of customers' data. Anybody here lost customer data before? And most of you don't want to admit it if you did, because it sucks, okay? I had about 1,500 people that didn't get their paychecks for almost 2 weeks because my technician didn't know how to undo something he did. Whether or not it was his fault didn't really matter at that point. Worst day of my life. I could care less about making money that day. My action behind that was, besides the fact I didn't get sued, I kept the customer. I don't know how I got through that one. They understood. I went out and I had used StorageCraft at a couple of client sites. I went out and bought copies of Shadow Protect for about 40 or 50 managed customers I had at the time. Installed it on every one of those. Happened to be using HiRelay, which I know is here today. Happened to be using their devices or any USB device I could hook up, but we were building what we call poor man's BDRs at that time. And I had everybody running on Shadow Protect within a week. Moral of that story was I actually went out later and asked the customers to pay me for it. I wasn't going to go through that again. Profitability wasn't a concern. I know most of you in this room care about the health and welfare of your customers. That's probably why you're in this business. Having a recoverability solution that you absolutely positively know can work is probably important to you. And if you've got anything bootstrapped or duct tape or anybody using the word tape at all, it's a 4-letter word to me. I'd love to see you take a closer look at what we do here. I love that story. Staffing companies and me don't get along. You'll hear. So let me give you a visual. I'm a visual learner, that and repetition at my age. Here's a pretty good example of a typical network. You've got some servers and workstations sitting out there on a customer site. How many of you have sold BDRs? There's different companies, eFolder, Zenith Infotech, Axient, SharTech, et cetera, Datto, lots of them out there. They basically package some solutions up, and they make it easy and they make it quick, make it profitable too. So you stick one of those out there, or you stick a NAS, or you stick a server, any type of storage on that customer site, and I can teach you how to do this yourself. You back up using Shadow Protect. So the backup agents live within the guest operating systems or the physical operating systems on those servers, backing up one full backup and lots of incrementals, up to every 15 minutes. So let's say you're doing about 96 backups a day. All small little tiny backups going to a storage server. Next thing we do is we replicate, probably seed that full backup, either a USB drive or you can send it over the wire depending on your bandwidth, and you get it off-site. Off-site could mean the customer has 2 locations. Off-site could mean that you stood up a data center. I call that printing money. Okay, if you want to learn how to do that, I would strongly recommend we give you the free tools to be able to have your own storage server at your data center, or you can use what's out there from Linux-based to Windows-based to set up your own storage. If you want to offer recovery as a service, that might be the next level, but you are keeping a third copy of the customer's data. Not quite as much risk in that, I would assume, because you can always go back to one of the other copies. But store customers' data off-site, or you can use the storage cloud services. I'll tell you more about that. In the event of a disaster, and I put a flame up here. Do I have? I do. I had another customer. It was a staffing company. I don't know why it's always staffing companies. I got the call. They said, we think there's a problem. You need to get in here immediately. I show up, and there's this server rack in this little room, not bigger than a closet as usual, and it's stacked full with servers. It wasn't a Friday, it was a Monday. And I come in, and there's water flowing down the server rack. I don't know how many of you are technical, but that's not a normal feature in a server rack. I think HP has some really cool cooling stuff. Is that right, Greg? Does it involve water? No? So there's water flowing down it. Now, of course, it was a 2-story building, and upstairs was a bathroom for a telemarketing center. It wasn't the sink. Where do you think the tapes were? On the server rack. I didn't touch them. So there was no police department showing up, no news crews, no fire trucks, but it was definitely a disaster. So, but I'll use a flame for this one. And in this case, if server 2 goes up in smoke, or if it happens to have toilet water flowing down it, it's just a nasty visual. It has toilet water flowing down it. You would access the local storage either through another machine on the network if it didn't have Windows, or if it had Windows, you'd remote right into that machine. Mr. Customer, relax, put out the fire, whatever. You'd right-click on the latest and greatest backup file up to how old? Anybody who's familiar with our product? 15 minutes. Up to 15 minutes ago, you'd right-click on the backup file, and what we would do is we would present that backup file, it's an incremental, along with its dependent incrementals, and then the full base image. We would present those files to a hypervisor. In our case, Sun Microsystems VirtualBox. Gee, now you know how to build a BDR. We would present it to VirtualBox and say, hey, VirtualBox, here's your VHD or VMDK. Here's your virtual hard drive. Boot from it. We don't copy the files. We don't recreate them. We don't have to reassemble them from disparate locations or reassemble them from some complicated deduplication process. We don't need to worry about storage savings. We've got that figured out. But we can present that to a hypervisor, and it typically takes me about 3 to 4 minutes. If anybody remembers, what was it, 2006, I was in a room next door. You guys remember that? The recovery of a disaster recovery? Hey, you're laughing in the back there. Where things started to go wrong. It ultimately worked. It took me 15 minutes. But we've got it down to about 4 minutes where you can typically right-click on a backup chain and present it as a virtual environment so that the customer's back up and running off a temporary recovery server as if nothing ever happened. Literally running off of it. May it be in a degraded state? Yeah. But email's flowing, Active Directory's working, printers are printing, files are available. You're running off of that, and now you're writing to the same backup chain from which you had created that virtual server off of. Go out and order some new hardware. Get it back in a week or 2 later, whatever it takes to get it shipped in, hopefully only a few days. Take that hardware and start recovering to the bare metal or to a virtual machine. Might be a good time for migration. We can do either. And you recover back to the new hardware using the same exact chain from an incremental very recent to what's being created here. At that point in time, you'd shut down the virtual machine, come up on the physical machine, you're down another 5, 15 minutes. Your total downtime during that can be anywhere from 15 minutes, half an hour, half of it being planned at 5 o'clock Friday afternoon, get home. Conversely, the same scenario. I call it the smoking crater. I don't like to use Joplin, but maybe a Russian comet. I don't know what you get here in Seattle. But something happens and the whole site's gone. What do? You go to your offsite data center and you can either load that on a bare metal recovery drive or load up a server from that data, or if you have a business continuity plan accordingly, say you've got an application server, set up VPNs, you can reproduce those servers virtually in a matter of minutes. From your data center, from our data center, from the customer's data center, whatever you want to do, the tools are there. I always refer to StorageCraft as a bunch of Legos. How many of you have kids that build Legos? Yeah.
We have a question over here from online from David. And the question is, which major RMM companies incorporate StorageCraft into their backup service? Do GFI or Continuum offer it?
Incorporate into their backup service. So those are our OEM partners. If they're offering our backup agent for resale, the backup agent runs autonomously. The question is, does it integrate back into their monitoring, reporting, or alerting? Most of the major RMMs, those that actually resell us, I think are limited to Kaseya, LabTech, and
Level platforms and
LPI doesn't resell it, they just integrate with it tightly.
and Enable as well. We'll coming on board with Enable pretty soon. So.
Kind of important, by the way, if you're using a
Can you
backup and
repeat
recovery
that?
software, it'd be good to be integrated.
Can you repeat those one more time?
Sorry, so the question is, what platforms do we integrate with?
No, yeah, just the names, because I'm going to post it.
Okay, so we integrate with Level, for sure, with Level platforms, Enable.
You're answering a different question than he asked. You're talking about which RMMs you integrate with, report through. It sounded like the question he asked was your, I think the question that was asked was about the backup client itself.
Right.
What products does that sit inside of? Two different questions.
Pieces of StorageCraft technology sit in a lot of solutions. We're running short on time?
About 5 minutes.
Okay, and that's all I have left anyway. You can look at a variety of solutions. If you remember the original VMware converter, anybody ever play with that? Whose technology do you think that was based on? Remember Ghost? So you can find pieces of our technology in a lot of places. Specifically our backup agent, we are not necessarily a part of a particular software, with the exception, I think Datto has it pretty well hidden within their BDR system. Most of them, it's pretty self-explanatory. You've got StorageCraft Shadow Protect running as your backup agent. So it's kind of a hard question to answer directly. I'm not trying to be cagey on it. So in this scenario, you've recovered off-site, you figure out your business continuity plan. This is pretty straightforward. The value proposition here is if you're going to offer business continuity with the same set of tools, most of them being available for no cost from Shadow Protect, such as our recovery tools, our diagnostic tools, our management tools, et cetera. Other than the backup agents and replication, you're going to get all these tools for no charge. You'll be able to create your own business continuity set that backs up on-site and off-site, or replicates to off-site, centrally manage it and monitor it. We do have an entire suite that allows you to monitor every site, every instance, every replication, every storage of Shadow Protect backups. The ability to test recovery points. Why don't most people test their backups?
They don't want to know if they're going to fail.
There's some truth behind that. What's the real reason they don't, though?
Time and money and
They can't. Pick your favorite customer. In your head, who's your favorite customer? Let's go to their site this Friday and wipe their drives. You're not going to do it. So go take some extra servers over there. How much is that going to cost them? Well, you'd love to. They can't. They don't have spare servers laying around to do it. So they have to, plug and pray type thing with their tapes. And the ability to recover systems or files fast, both on-site and off-site. So that's StorageCraft does that help visually? I'm such a visual learner. This is the way I have to visualize it. It's not complex. I'd get down into the breakdown, but basically you've got 3 products at work. You've got StorageCraft Shadow Protect backing up the servers. The backups are landing on a storage location, some sort of network share, attached storage, whatever. StorageCraft Image Manager is managing those files, doing your verification and re-verification, making sure the integrity is still intact. We're doing a retention and consolidation policy to meet your compliance requirements, keep some granularity there according to what you want. We do that on-site and off-site separately if you'd like. And then we're also replicating either to your cloud or our cloud. StorageCraft Cloud Services includes the ability to store your files, or the ability to store your files and access them, file and folder level, or the ability to virtualize in our cloud. Those are the 3 tiers of service. Everybody always asks. Pretty straightforward. And then on top of that, you have the monitoring platform to see all of that, of what's occurring. That's end-to-end business continuity. You've got those in there. Go ahead.
So have you folks actually crafted, if you will, your own single message restore solution?
Can you clarify the question?
To restore a single message from Exchange.
So
in
granular
the-
recovery for Exchange is announced 3 weeks ago by Shadow Protect. Great partnership with Kroll over the years. We needed something a little bit more versatile from a licensing standpoint that was available to our monthly subscribers. That is now available. So if you're a reoccurring, in other words, you rent our licenses on a monthly basis, you can now, for $9.99 a month, do unlimited mailboxes on a named exchange server. That's available through our MSP program. Works great.
Mark, is that a adaptation and licensing with Kroll, or do you guys author your own
Our
piece?
own.
That
It's
is our own.
It's our own.
And there's going to be some small, bells and whistles difference. For the most part, you need to search for something, you can find it,
Yeah.
recover
We'll
it,
take
drag and drop.
one more question, Jay. Go ahead.
Yeah, so Luke D says GFI has a monitor for StorageCraft.
Oh, thank you, Luke. You got to realize, we write to the message, we write to the alert logs. So any RMM you're working with, you should be able to monitor that. Obviously, you'd want to monitor our services. If you've worked with an RMM, you know it's not a matter of have we built an integration or not, it's have you integrated it. That's typically what it comes down to. So, hey, thank you for your time. I appreciate the Mark and Mark show.
The Mark
thank
and
you for
Mark
letting us have
Show. You can use that tummy for something. You can clap. All right, so folks, thank you very much. We now enter the next series of lectures, 3:10 p.m. to 4:10 p.m. Here in the Hood room, we have T1, Powerful Server Management, Make Cloud Nation Servers Your Secret Weapon with Robert Christensen. And over in the Lassen room, we have M1, State of the Cloud, a 60-minute journey